Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another setup session here at Coach Dave Academy. We are on ACC this week, and we've started working on the GT4s. As you probably know if you're following the updates on our Discord channel. We start off with the Porsche. The Porsche bundle will actually be ready this week, and we've also gotten a head start now on the next GT4 on the list, which is the Mercedes. Quite an interesting car, but quite limited in some of the things you can change on the car. But interestingly enough, there are significant impacts from each and every change that you can make from whatever you have available on the setup screen. So let's see how it goes. We're at Donington today. Hubert's driving the car. I'm Sai, and we've got Mike taking care of the broadcast as usual. Should be interesting. We'll do some mechanical things and then mechanical settings, get those right, and then play around a bit with the aero as well, because that's something that's a little bit more open to play with, especially with GT4. So it should be quite interesting. So Hubert, what do you say? Let's jump straight into it.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. What have the impressions been like on the other tracks with the Merc?
Definitely way better than the Porsche, at least with the electronics, I think. Because the Porsche just in 1.9, I think somehow all the TC overall in the game got a bit more aggressive, activates a bit more. So now even on the lowest setting, it's just cutting a bit too much power on the exits. And yeah, it's actually a problem. While this car still allows for some tire slip. So I think in terms of it's more fun to drive the AMG compared to the Porsche, but because you can drive it more aggressively instead of just trying to minimize the TC activating at all costs, And also under braking, I think it's also a bit better. You have less of that ABS, also inconsistency, let's say, where the ABS just cuts off your brakes completely.
Yeah, I think mechanically it seems a lot more planted, but it also seems like it's a car that's less responsive to direction changes and things like that. It's not as agile as the Porsche. So it's quite important to get the mechanical settings slightly on the stiffer side is what we found with the... If you look at our notes, we've also mentioned that this is a car that's quite sensitive to roll, has aero sensitivity to roll, but not really sensitive in terms of downforce, as in the downforce is not that strong, but if your car rolls too much, you definitely start feeling that effect. It's very similar in that way to the AMG GT3.
Yeah, on Laguna I actually did end up with a bit different settings in the front, not just trying to get out of the rotation, all the rotation out with like the softest settings and everything. I actually gained time with a stiffer setup. Even though you never really get enough rotation with these GT4s, you always want a bit more.
Yeah, all the more reason to nail the mechanical settings, get them in the perfect window, because the aero really doesn't, or rather, because the aero is not that strong. If your mechanical settings are, I mean, you have more place to play around with the mechanical settings without worrying about how it affects aero, apart from the arms.
No. Right under the steer on the downhill there. Oh.
How does the car feel under braking?
Good. I think you can actually even start turning under braking quite well. For now, I'm feeling mid corner being the worst with a bit of understeer. We have very low brake bias, so yeah, it does enter, but then kind of through the middle as it settles, I feel like it's missing some rotation. Also, I definitely need to correct some pressures. Yeah, but I felt it on the downhill actually. We got a bit of understeer, and then the first uphill ride, you just feel like on brakes you kind of turn more even than in the middle of the corner after you release the brakes.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's do this. Firstly, the front toe. Sorry. The front toe. Let's push it 7 clicks more positive.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's try 2 clicks up on the front wheel rate. And a click up on the rear arc.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and 1 click down on the diff to start with.
Okay. No. I need to figure out the chicane. It's either I cut or go sideways.
It's because the car is much slower than the GT3, so the probably have to think about the line more instead of like straight lining it. Like
Yeah. Because you don't have such a good response, you have to do it earlier, but then too early and you're just gonna cut it. So you have to time it well if you wanna go fast through. Yeah, this downhill is still too understeery. And yeah, having to move from right to left just completely upsets the balance when you go on brakes.
is that again on the front end or the rear end? You can change direction. Is it understeering still, or?
I mean, yeah, it is understeering, but on the front or on the rear, I actually don't know.
Okay. So let's try a couple of things then.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll just do this downhill,
Yep.
and then RTG. That was a better line. I'd say it's on the rear though. Oh, not the wipers.
Okay. Okay, so let's actually do this. Let's go down on the rear orb because that'll give it more roll. Technically, should give you more grip and make you understeer, but with this car through some of the higher speed corners, this actually gets more rotation out of the car.
Okay.
And in addition to that, let's actually drop the rear wing one click as well. This will help us determine whether it's the rear end or the front end causing the understeer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's see what that combo does.
Yeah, I mean the downhill feels better, but I feel like without the rear arm, I'm maybe missing a bit of turn and sharpness, like in the chicane.
Yep. Has it done anything to exit stability anywhere, you feel?
No, I think it's very similar. Grip,
Okay.
the traction, so. You can slow speed anyway. Maybe on the old hairpin exit, you can feel a bit of roll on the back. Try to go in too hard, too aggressively.
I'm thinking if there's a way to fix this with the dampers. You send the Motec for this one. I just want to check what the histogram looks like. Some reason the GT4 histograms seem to actually be a little bit more consistent. Is what I've seen.
I actually have not checked myself. Okay. Send them. Maybe I can make sure we have enough fuel.
Oh yeah, what was the consumption per lap?
2.04.
I'd say 82 liters to be safe.
Okay. I was on 78. Damn.
Yeah, I think 78 would be exactly enough. So just maybe just a little bit more for
Yeah.
buffer. Heavily bob biased.
Really.
Yeah. Interesting. Could we try 4 clicks down on the rear rebound?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go back 1 click up on the rear orb.
Yeah.
And 1 click down on the preload.
Okay.
We'll also do 4 clicks up on the front rebound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Let's check those changes.
Oh god.
So it looks like once it gets planted, it's really good on the high and medium speed corners, but those small runs over the curb are causing some instability, right?
Yeah, like entries are good and aggressive, but exits are quite slidey now.
Yep.
And I just actually feel a bit of roll in the old hairpin at the bottom. Let's see on the front. But I don't know. We already have went up on the front springs.
Um, there are several options we have. I was thinking which one would be best mechanically. Would you say entries are perfect right now, or do you still need it to be a little bit more aggressive or less aggressive?
No, I don't need. I don't need more. I think you just have to kind of make it work and balance it out with the exit. Yeah, because there's just not enough grip to get on power.
Okay, let's try this then. Let's go up one click on the front arc.
Mm-hmm.
Two clicks down on the front rebound.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's go two clicks down on the rear bump stop rate as well. Like that might be just a bit too high. That's what's unsettling the rear of the car.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully this doesn't understeer too much. That's probably the only downside to these changes. The thing is, you can adjust the rear wheel rate on the car. So because it's so soft, it's almost always going to keep engaging the bump stop.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh. I don't know. That chicane does not feel good. I think it's
Still that direction change issue?
I don't know. It's like it reacts, but I think it then understeers.
Okay.
Just causing me to go a bit deep. Too deep.
Okay. I think we need to go back up on the ride height and aero in that case. Just because that'll also give you stability on high speed exits. So can we try let's try 4 clicks up on the rear ride height and 1 click back up on the rear wing.
1 on wing and 4 on height.
4 on height, yep. And just I've sent you the settings we have on mechanical and the dampers. Want to double check if we're on the same page.
Dampers, yes.
Brake temps are okay. Tire temps are a little cold. Actually, wait. In the next, they're all right. If you want, we could
think
close.
since then I closed by 1 the rear.
We close by 1. Okay. I mean, you can afford to close the front too if you want. Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. But one thing I would also keep testing is actually higher preload. I don't know if it's if the preload is like open, the diff is open or something, but yeah, some of the like oversteer on exits is a bit weird.
Yeah.
And I think it could help to follow through on that downhill a bit better.
Let's see if what the aero does, and then we'll also do a test on the preload. See which one. So could go one of 2 ways really. Technically, when you have an open diff, you're supposed to get oversteer when you get on throttle. But in many cases, even with the GT3s, when you have really low diff, it seems to give you better traction. So it's very dependent to this, specific to the situation. Does that downhill part still feel bad?
It's very similar, yeah.
Okay. So not taking any advantage of the higher wing.
No.
Okay. Any difference to how the curbs feel after the bump stop changes?
Um, I don't actually know. I think maybe there is slightly more traction on the curbs, like turn one exit, like the apex. We don't have that sliding initially, but I don't know if that's just a bump stop.
Okay.
But overall, yeah, there are no issues on any curves at the moment.
Right. Yeah, let's try this higher preload then. Yeah, which is just 2 clicks. Um, yeah. Let's try this alone. Then it's probably one more thing worth checking.
Yeah, I feel like the preload actually stabilizes the rear quite well, even during the direction changes.
Yep.
And I'm just missing a bit of mid corner at the moment.
Mid corner rotation.
Yeah. It's like that off throttle middle coast when you finish braking.
Yep. Okay, let's try this. The 2 clicks up on the rear bump. 3 clicks down on the rear rebound.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 clicks down on the rear bump stop rate.
Mm-hmm.
1 up on the rear ride height.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 more down. So 1 more down on the rear bump stop rate.
Okay.
And okay, and then so 1 up on the front bump dampers. And 1 more down on the rear rebound.
Mm-hmm.
So so those would be the new dampers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, finally some consistency.
It definitely looked more consistent, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see like a lot of correction on your steering wheel. Is that just the way the track is, or it's for this
Maybe
car, or is it too
maybe
aggressive?
that's the wheel, just a bit strong because I upgraded.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, so
Because it looked
just
like it
shaking
looked
me
almost
around.
like right. So it's just bump steer basically.
Yeah.
No, so it's not like the car's constantly trying to slide and you're having to catch.
No. The wheel is just doing that on its own.
Go.
Kinda. Yeah. No, there is a good balance between like entry and exit rotation for sure, and traction.
Okay.
The downhill part is nice. Even you can enter safely, even with a little bit of still weight transfer. You don't have to be completely settled to like go on brakes and still keep control of the car.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we got the nice consistency now within the laps.
Yeah. I think we should save this then if it feels good. Um, yeah, downhill looks really nice. You can tell the car is quite stiff because it is sliding uniformly in slow speed. But then,
Uh-huh.
like the hairpin, or I can sense that you need to be really careful in the hairpins not to make it slide right or understeer.
Oh, yeah. That's also a bit of the brakes and ABS,
Yep.
just how it works. And on exits, I don't know. I think like only thing maybe could be that rear bump that's a bit stiff, but it's only a few
Yep.
corners when that initial kick kind of gives you
Yep.
some TC. I don't know.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is for the safe setup, we'll drop the rear bump stops, the rate a little bit, and also I think 2 clicks down on the rear ride height.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, hopefully that doesn't understeer it too much, because of how the car is so on edge here, and because of how narrow the correct line is, anything that we do to slow speed is going to affect that downhill right hander or the downhill
Yeah.
section, because
So
that's
you
the
want
most
a click or 2 clicks on the right on the back?
I would say just 1 click on the rate, but 2 clicks on the ride height.
Yeah.
Should-
Um. Okay. No, sometimes like I get pulled by a curb, but I think it's on the outlaps when I have like 24 psi. So
Yeah,
I think that I was just looking at the front alignment if that could go down, but no, I don't think there's any issue on the actual pressures in the window.
I mean, maybe changing the front door would help a little bit, just make it more neutral. But
Yeah, but I'm saying it was like on the outlap on still 24 psi, and I went through the chicane and it just pulled my wheel just so
yeah,
violently. It was quite surprising.
yeah, it usually takes 2 laps to even get up to speed, like because your first flyer is always like a 0.9.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason AMG isn't even bad on the first lap. I don't know why. Like maybe it somehow benefits from less grip on the back, just makes it rotate a bit more. But
It's just generally a stable car, right? Most of the front engine cars are like that.
yeah, but Porsche definitely wasn't like that. Like fourth, fifth lap was the grip lap for sure.
Despite that, it's still quite a strong quali lap, quali car.
Yeah, I think I would actually touch the alignment a bit. Make it more neutral on the curbs.
Yeah. Let's try.
Also on the AstroTurf on some of the exits.
Yep. Let's try maybe 3 or 4 clicks. Let's do 4 clicks just to. Then we'll see if that's too much or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't understeering at all through the high speed section with those changes.
Yeah. I mean, they're not that big. Like, I don't think bounce up is touching in the downhill. Like maybe at the bottom it should.
Once you get on throttle, yeah.
Yeah.
Then the ride height as well.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, nice and easy.
Cool. So it's more consistent on the curbs then.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel anything really on the curbs now, so it's good as it is.
Perfect. For quali, generally don't need any change because of how, I mean, we're already starting with less fuel, and then these cars don't seem to be too sensitive with weight changes, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Now lower the or raise the rear pressure.
Maybe because it's not so heavy, we could afford to go a bit more on the toe. Wouldn't have too much of an impact, but we can test it later. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we could for sure.
Yeah, also the quality delta on this car is not that good.
Yeah, it's like half a second for me.
Something like that, yeah. Some tracks it was only 3 or 4 tenths.
Oh yeah, I think on Valencia I said it was like 3 from Amadeo. And it's also different than other cars. In a GT3, I would expect to just like gain on acceleration and on straights. And in this, I just gain in corners and I don't get anything on the straights from, having like 70 liters less. I'm not sure. I think you just have to drive it more aggressive and harder, for quality.
Yeah. And the difference is fuel difference is really not as big as with the GT3s because you're already starting with about half the amount of fuel you would with the GT3.
Yeah, it's not as much. Okay. Definitely driving more aggressively because all my pressures are way higher. I don't know what to even try. I'm thinking of the preload. It looks what?
It looks a bit unstable.
I mean, that's just a bit of driving because I got a good first lap. So I was just like pushing to try and improve.
Right.
And I was trying to get on the throttle really early, but it's kind of missing the rotation. So just thinking about the preload, like going like way higher, seeing what that does. Can I go like way earlier?
Yeah.
Like 3.
3 clicks, yeah.
And maybe that front alignment as well.
Yeah, I was thinking we could go more aggressive, but I mean, I don't know if it's because of the preload or the alignment as well. So I think we should just try the preload alone,
Mm-hmm.
and then do the alignment.
Okay.
It looks like a fun combo to drive.
Yeah, I mean, there is that bit of understeer, because it's a GT4, but definitely it's one of the tight tracks, one of the British tracks, which are just perfect for the GT4s. Like, you don't want to drive this car on Spa or like Polar Car, You definitely want this type of track.
Yeah, nice short track. It still has a good variety of corners.
Yeah.
The Snetterton might be a bit too long for this.
Have I done that already? I have done that. Yeah, I mean, Snet just has that turn 1 and that second last corner, which are not very enjoyable on the GT4s, so they're quite high speed, and without the aero, it just understeer fast most of the time. At least if you want to keep some, reasonable traction for the rest of the track. Yep. Obviously, you can make it rotate through a corner. It's just gonna be awful everywhere else.
Yeah, I think in terms of like track width and technicality, it's pretty good for GT4s. But as a track length itself, it's quite a long lap, right?
Yeah, for GT4s it's 155.
Yep.
156 in race. Yeah, I would need more traction with this preload.
Yeah, it tends to become worse on curbs.
Uh,
If you go over a split friction surface with a high preload, it generally kicks the car out. That's if you go over like a puddle on track. If you have very high preload, it's just gonna snap the car
yeah.
because there's just too much torque going on a wheel that has no grip.
Too deep. Yeah, it's like there is something to it, but you'd need a different approach in the rest of the setup to accommodate.
Yeah, because it helps on high speed, but then if you go over a weird bumpy surface, it causes a problem.
Yeah.
We could, adjust the rest of the setup and get it to work, but maybe we should also try the other thing with the previous diff, and then we just go more neutral on the uh, toe on the front.
Mm-hmm. So for clicks, like the safe.
Yeah, like safe. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Thought that was in. Too hot. But that previous lap was like so close. Like lose 100? Yeah, nah. Lose 100?
Yeah. You feeling a difference with the toe change?
Only in that corner that I just passed, maybe that uphill right-hander on that inside curve, because it's quite high. On these flat curves, not really, no. Like turn 1, I think it's still quite similar. You can still get a little slide if you're too aggressive over it. Yeah, so it's just a difference that one corner, a little bit, so not a big difference actually.
Yeah, the bump stops themselves might be too stiff.
Oh, come on. small improvement. But the rear just stepped out before that back straight. It's like half a tenth.
Perhaps if we soften the rear pump damping a bit, it
I actually got all purples on this run, on this setup.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good lap, but if you want it to be more consistent or stable, we could try the softer rear bump tapping.
Yeah, we can try.
So just 2 clicks down on that, and perhaps also 2 clicks down on the front bump stop rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, that should make the curbs easier, and it would also prevent the car from understeering too much due to the rear bump change.
Okay. Jesus, what was that sound? I don't know if you heard it.
No. But did it like bottom out something?
No, it was on the curb, but it wasn't like a sliding sound on the curb. It actually sounded like some scary scream or something. It's as if you locked your wheel on the curb. I have no idea. Never heard that before. I wonder if that's gonna be on the replay.
can see some more understeer now, high speed.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the softer rear bump added roll in the back or something.
That too, yep. Which is why on slow speed corners you're struggling
Yeah.
with the turn, yeah. But then, yeah, it's also squatting too much on high speed. And
Yeah, and when you look at, or like land on AstroTurf and you have more weight on that outside wheel, it also like steps out.
yep. I guess the previous one was a better compromise than the 0.9.
Yeah. Ah. No, they are all so close. It's like almost down to the lap. But yeah, this feels like a bit too much roll in some situations.
Yep. Yeah, I think we'll just save the 0.957 then.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good delta, 7/10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. That was an interesting session. I thought it would be quite simple, but I guess GT4 is always surprising.
Yeah, because it's like a short track, but you do have some different corners in here, downhill, uphill, fast and slow. So you're trying to make all that work somehow. You have to tweak, a couple things to get the good
Yep.
balance.
Yeah, it looks like GT4s are more roll sensitive than what you would first assume them to be, because we know that GT3s became quite roll sensitive over the past few months, at least on this patch. But yeah, it seems like it's affecting even slower cars too. So it'll be interesting to see how it affects the single make cars when we get to them. But yeah, do check out the patch. Do check out the notes for these setups, because you'll understand why we made certain setup decisions. Something you will observe when you're checking out different setups for different tracks is the damper approaches are very different. Primarily because everything else in mechanical sort of only fits in one sort of combination for the cars. But the dampers are where you can really play around with the setup, with the curb absorption, bump absorption, and you can change the way the car behaves for different aero values that we're using. But yeah, you'll get access to a few of the mercs this week, or mostly the entire bundle, depending on how many setups are ready. But the rest of the Porsche bundle will definitely be available at the day after you watch. Sorry about the background noise. So it will be available just a day after you watch this recording, and most likely a good chunk of Mercedes setups as well. But on that note, thank you all so much for joining us for this recording. This is the first GT4 recording, but we'll be having a lot more in the upcoming weeks. Do check out the Discord channels, the Discord server for Coach Dave Academy to find out more information about the release order, and check out the website for the different purchasing options that are available. On that note, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Yeah, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed.